Hello, and welcome to the Stat Nerd Draft Report. Today, I have three guests here with me, and we're going to go through a mock draft. So, all three of my guests today are contributors for Nylon Calculus, my new platform. We have Ricky Scricca, Jacob Goldstein, and Josiah Brady. We've already been assigned our teams for the mock draft, and let's get the most important point out of the way. These picks are going to be what we would do, not what we believe the team is going to do. As far as I know, we don't have any inside sources, so we're just going to go with what we believe is the right basketball move. So we're going to begin with Ricky here on the board with the Phoenix Suns. Go ahead and give us your pick and a little bit of rationale.
Well, this is probably going to be the easiest pick of the entire draft for all of us, so I'm just going to go with Luka right here. I just think it's super obvious, and I really like the fit on the Suns, honestly, as well. I like the idea of pairing him with another shot creator and Devin Booker. I mean, the front court situation in Phoenix is obviously not ideal, but also in theory, Josh Jackson gives you a guy that can defend at the point of attack, which is definitely good for Luka because I think that's pretty much what you want surrounding him. And having his coach from the Slovenian national team, Igor Koshkov, obviously that doesn't hurt either. So, yeah, definitely going Luka here.
Hard to find fault with that pick. I'm pretty high on Luka. I think everybody else is here too. We'll save, I think, any dissension talk for, later picks. We'll go on to Jacob at number 2. Lay it on us.
At number 2, I'm going to be taking Jaren Jackson Jr. I think outside of Luka, he's the second best pick on the board. I think he has really high upside, really high floor. He fits what the team wants to do. He gives them some defensive identity while at the same time being a good enough offensive player that he can help space the floor for De'Aaron Fox, who is really their only other prospect who matters. So I think he's a great fit for the team, and there's no reason not to take the second best player available in the draft. They don't have anyone else who would be in contention for playing time at big minutes that Jaren Jackson would have to really battle with.
Yeah, I like the pick there. I'm really high on Jackson. He's another player I have in the same tier with Doncic. Does anyone think that another player should have been picked there?
I mean, not me. That's where I would have gone too.
All right. So I have the next pick with the Atlanta Hawks. I was hoping Jaren Jackson would fall to me because I really think he's just like a dynamite prospect. But the Kings made an excellent pick here for once. Hopefully it continues on in real life that they make an excellent pick because I'd like to see them do well. But for the Hawks here, I'm going to go ahead and select Trae Young. I'm not a huge fan of Schroeder, and I think that he's pretty movable in today's NBA climate. I mean, maybe you don't get a gain on the trade, but he's not like a prospect that they should fear moving, and there's plenty of other players who do what he does, but there's not many players who do what Trae Young does, and that's stretch a defense to its absolute limits, worrying about him pulling at any given second. He's not going to be Steph Curry, but I think he can replicate some of the things Steph Curry does bring to the game. His defense is an issue, absolutely, but you hope that with high IQ he can get to maybe like a -1.5, and as a point guard, a -1.5 I think is workable in a scheme. Anyone think that I should have gone another way at number 3?
I think that's probably what I would have gone too. I mean, the Hawks, for the most part, are also just sort of like a blank slate team completely. So you definitely just got to go best available. And I think Trae Young is definitely a good upside play there. So, I mean, I might have considered like someone else. I don't know, maybe like Miles Bridges or something. I don't know. But that's probably what I would have ended up with as well.
And
I would have preferred to go somewhere else simply because I wanted to pick Trae Young. But, yeah, it's all good.
Hey, that's a fair criticism. Jealousy. I like it. All right, so we'll go ahead and get to your pick now then. Who are you going to pick for the Memphis Grizzlies?
Yeah, so now that all my favorite players are gone, I think I'm going to go a little bit down some, traditional draft boards, like the ones that are often found on, ESPN, ESPN 100 or whatever, and get Wendell Carter Jr. for the Grizzlies. Though it seems like Mark is, kind of what would be, an a 90th percentile output for Wendell Carter Jr. I think Wendell Carter has like very translatable defensive skills, especially his block rate. And I think they could also play together simply because Marc Gasol has been able to hit threes at a more reasonable rate now. And Wendell Carter was actually pretty good, probably on the low attempts, though. I don't know how many attempts he had, but I see he shot 41% on those. Good passer. Obviously the best defender, the best defensive big man on their team. So, yeah, Wendell Carter Jr.
Not going to lie, I thought you were going to go with another Duke big man there. But if you're looking for an approximation to replace Marc Gasol, I think Carter's probably the best bet for the players on board. If that's the style they want to go with, then that would definitely be the prospect to go with. Anyone have any other thoughts there?
I mean, yeah, no, I honestly thought you were going to go Bagley there too, the way you're like introducing that. But no, I think Carter, I actually never really even thought that much about Carter with the Grizzlies, like that fit specifically, but I think that's really interesting. I really like how like hyper aware Wendell Carter is of like what he needs to work on, which is specifically like movement skill stuff. And I think the way he showed up to the combine, just like insanely ripped, that definitely bodes well for him. And I think that's pretty much the one thing you can point at that might cause him to like have some like serious defensive issues at the next level. And I mean, I didn't even think he was that far away to begin with, but he's clearly made strides physically. No, I really like that pick.
Yeah, I would agree. And especially then getting under the tutelage of Marc Gasol to help him navigate his way through NBA defenses, even if Gasol's only there for a year or so. I think that's a really good pairing in terms of tutoring to help Carter reach his apex and become the best outcome he can be.
Yeah, not only tutor, but I think there's definitely truth to the fact that they can play together. It's not just like he can sit on the bench and watch Gasol. He can be on the court next to him and watch how he moves, which I think is even going to give him a better sense of where he needs to be when he eventually moves to that middle spot. And then whenever Gasol's out, they move him over to the middle, and you know he gets to learn on the job training as well. I do like that pick. All right, so let's go on to the next pick for Josiah with the Mavericks.
Yeah, I'm not excited about this pick simply because I think one of the possible selections here involves a pretty great deal of uncertainty, Michael Porter Jr. And then also we have other bigs who I'm not quite as high on defensively, but I think here actually seeing that Dallas has very few centers right now, and I'm not sure what the future entails for Nerlens Noel, given how they've interacted, he and the organization. I think I'm going to go with Bagley here, mainly because the extent to which DeAndre Ayton was bad on defense was like pretty alarming, and then also like very recognizable through film and of course data. Like I saw what you said, Jacob, about defensive player impact plus minus and how very few big man defenders had such a poor rating in that area, given how simple it really is often to defend at in a college, at a university. So got to go with Bagley.
Man, you threw me for so many curves in that player and show. I was sure you were going to. And I was so upset you didn't go Ayton because I was so on board for saying why Bagley was going to be a great pick for Orlando. But now I can keep that under wraps for a later time.
Oh.
But so I actually do like the Bagley pick there just because I think that he's going to provide ridiculous vertical gravity in Carlisle's system. And Carlisle can just get a system out of vertical gravity just like that. You give him a couple decent shooters and he's got something.
Jeez. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about like the extent to which he got all that value out of Tyson Chandler during that championship run.
Yeah, and I mean defensively, obviously Bagley's not Tyson Chandler,
Oof,
but
yeah,
but Dwight Powell too. That's another good example of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But Bagley can move his feet pretty well, I think, on the perimeter, and that may actually be more important as we get further into the NBA's life. So my pick with the Orlando Magic. And I did not think that he would be falling here. And I think I'm going to go with DeAndre Ayton. I really like the front court that they have, honestly, in Jonathan Isaac and Aaron Gordon. But I think Ayton has just so much potential than despite his massive defensive flaws, and there are massive defensive flaws, which I've detailed in many different forums. But at this point, you just can't pass up his kind of talent. And there's going to be a ton of floor spacing with Isaac spreading the floor. Even if Gordon's shot isn't quite where it needs to be, I think that you just can't pass up on the value for Ayton. He's going to be a physical specimen, and if you can just coax some kind of defensive impact out of him, it's a steal. And if not, I mean, it may be a bust of a pick, but that's honestly not that new to the Magic anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this late in the draft at 6, it's worth the upside swing if Ayton actually falls here. Like the chance that he is a good enough defender to overcome those limitations, and it's offset by his high potential on offense. I think at 6 you got to take a swing on that if you can.
And if for no other reason, just trade value. I mean, obviously, like teams around the league are super high on him. Like, I think you just kind of got to go that way.
Yeah, if I was in Magic and this scenario actually happened, I would definitely think about shopping the pick, just because, like, if you can get instant value off that, just because someone's like, oh, I can get Ayton at 6, let me overpay for it. Like, you may have to do that.
Yeah, and I've kind of been looking at the Clippers at 12 and 13. That might be an interesting trade for both sides. Clippers might be looking for an upside play. Magic just need more, like a larger quantity of like talent, like just like bites at the apple, basically. I feel like that could be an interesting pairing.
Wow, that Blake Griffin trade would look amazing if they somehow cobbled together just to get DeAndre Ayton out of it. Not that I think DeAndre Ayton's amazing or anything. Like, I have him in the second tier of my big board, but to get him out of that trade is something. All right, so let's go ahead and go to Jacob's second pick, the Bulls at number 7.
I think at this point in the draft, there's one player out of the top 7 who's fallen a bit, and he's the last one left. I'm going to take Mo Bamba. I think he can pair with Lowry Markkanen really well. I think if his shooting that we've seen in his workout videos actually translates to his play on the court, it'll be a really good value pick. He can help space the floor with Lowry. Together on defense, I think they'd make a really good combo with Bamba's crazy length and great hip switching. I think you could play them pretty interchangeably between 4 and 5. Bamba is a hell of a rim protector, and I think he's just the highest upside guy left on the board. And I think that's ultimately what the Bulls end up doing at 7 anyway. I mean, maybe they're swayed by Porter, but I think they likely end up just taking whoever falls out of the 7 guys that have gone so far.
I like that pick. Don't have to think too hard about it. Just like, yeah, it fits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really encouraged. Maybe that's hardly like right. Yeah, maybe it's like me being like overly optimistic about his words, but like the way he described, or at least the way he recognized the limitations of his shooting stroke from college and said like, oh yeah, I changed everything, was a bit encouraging to me. It seems like it's possible that he has the like he simply just wants to learn, and he simply wants to provide ways to like remain involved with his team and be like a reasonable offensive player. We already know about what he could possibly bring on the defensive end, so I was encouraged by that.
All right, so next we have Ricky on the clock at 8 with the Cavs.
So, yeah, my best player on the board right now is Miles Bridges, and I think that's a pretty solid fit for them. I honestly, if you guys follow Jackson Hoy on Twitter, he has some really interesting takes about Miles Bridges, and he's really kind of gotten me to warm up on him. I, for some time, had him in like the 12-13 range, but I just think he's just exactly what you want out of a wing in the modern NBA. I mean, the wingspan leaves something to be desired, but I mean, he is a really great shooter. I think he is a smart defender. He's not going to be like some kind of stopper necessarily, but he's what you want in like a wing team defender, and he's got a pretty solid frame. And I think whether LeBron stays or leaves, that's I think that would be a really good pick because he also gives you a little bit of shot creation equity, not in the sense that he'll ever initiate an offense necessarily, but he can shoot off the dribble a little bit, potentially run secondary pick and rolls, that sort of stuff. So I think he can fit alongside another high level or initiator or ball dominant star like LeBron reasonably well. But also if LeBron does end up going somewhere else, then that's a nice player to have.
I like the pick. He's the second best player on my or second highest on my big board right now, but I think he's the highest on my fit for the Cavs. So that's definitely the way I would have gone. All right, back on the clock again. Ricky at number 9.
I actually like Miles Bridges more for the Knicks than the Cavs. I think that's a really nice pairing at the 4 next to Porzingis at the 5. But the other Bridges is still available, so I'm just going to go with him because the Knicks just need wings. Maybe that I kind of doubt that would be the direction they would go here. I'm not really sure. But I think that's also a pretty intuitive fit, just some more floor spacing, a little bit of defense, a little bit of a wingspan and versatility. I'm a little less high on Mikal Bridges than I was at one point, but I still think he's a good fit there.
Yeah, that's fair. I think they might go with a slightly higher upside, but he was the best. He was the highest on my big board. So, I like the pick there. He seems to be kind of what they need on the wing. They don't necessarily need a high volume. I think Porzingis is going to give them that high volume that they really want, and it's kind of like a safe pick, which is kind of un-Knicks-like. But hey, there's first for everything.
Yeah, and honestly, I would be shocked if they got to this position with these players available and didn't take Michael Porter Jr. there. That just would not make sense to me at all. At that point, you would know something was up with his medical. But either way, I'd probably just go with Bridges there.
Yeah, I was really hoping one of the 2 Bridges would fall to the 76ers, but those are both very solid picks and will, exactly as you described it, fit those teams really nicely. Provide real skills that they can use immediately in the NBA.
Yeah, speaking of immediately, just any word on when Porzingis is set to return?
Probably mid next season. I haven't seen anything specific, but
that may be something to think about in terms of whether they target immediate impact for a playoff run or high upside expected games from Porzingis.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think there's a non-zero chance based on at least what I've been reading, that he just misses most of the season. And if you're the Knicks and he's already missing at least half of the season, maybe you do just want to tank the rest of it and just get another really high draft pick. And in that case, obviously you would want to go with more upside here, but that might be a little bit of a stretch because chances are they probably want him on the court as soon as he's healthy, but who knows?
Yeah, Knicks are always way too optimistic about how they're going to do too. So they're not going to intentionally tank until February.
True.
All right.
That's probably part of the reason why they have such a high pick or a low pick.
Right? The pick in almost the treadmill position. So close to the treadmill position. All right, Jacob, at 10, 76ers, who you got?
See, at this point, Michael Porter's still there, and I would really want to take him for the potential upside, but I just don't think he fits the 76ers at all. They already have someone who plays the 4 and Ben Simmons. They already got Rick Covington, and they already have Joel Embiid, so there's no real space for him, and I think they're going to be looking for more an immediate impact type player who can really complement what they already have, and I think they need a little more ball handling. So I think at this point, based off how the board has gone, they'd probably go to a guard, and I'm going to be taking Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Great pick.
Right.
That hurts.
Yeah, I think
hurts.
he it's a little bit less shooting than I would like from a guard with Ben Simmons on the court, but he can be a really good secondary ball handler for them. He's a solid defender, and I don't think his shooting is going to be problematic. I think he's, especially in a bit more of an off-ball role, going to get a good amount of pretty open shots with stars and Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons already there, so he doesn't need to end up as a super high outcome player to be a starter on this team and be a really effective player as the 76ers make a playoff run next year.
Assuming Fultz gets kind of similar or kind of close to what we were expecting of him, him and Gilgeous-Alexander can definitely play together, and that would just be really like fun ball handling. When you don't even have Ben Simmons on the court, to have those two handling your offense, I feel like could be pretty fun to watch. All right, so next up, I have the Hornets pick at number 11, and I'm not going to keep it tricky. I'm going to go with Michael Porter Jr. They have a new staff on board that there's no reason to think they wouldn't go Michael Porter Jr. here if he was to somehow fall this far, just because they don't really have anything besides Kemba. I think that really inspires anything. And despite them telling him that he's part of their future, I think with Mitch Kupchak now in the front office, you can't really trust anything that was said before that. So seeing him possibly shipped off for a draft pick in this draft wouldn't be entirely surprising to me.
Maybe it might revitalize them a bit. And
Give
obviously this late, and this
if
late
he works, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they haven't been bad enough recently since Kid Gilchrist, it seems like, to really hit on or take a chance on a talent like that. So if a talent was like that was to fall on them, I think they have to jump on it immediately, because you don't expect them to be that bad unless Kupchak just goes for the full tank, which in his case in the past has just been ineptitude. Next up at 12 and 13 with the Clippers, Josiah.
Right. Okay. So a lot of the guys I like obviously were picked. I'm still processing it a bit.
You sound like
what
me
I'm
after the
hoping
Rockets
is
game last night. You're so sad.
still processing a bit. So I think here, and this is obviously contingent upon whether he stays in the draft, which I hope he does. I got to go with Jonte Porter here at 12. Yeah, I think he has good defensive upsides. And let me check a little bit more. But
do you know who you're going to pick next, too, so we can critique both picks together?
How about it? All right, I'll get the second one.
Don't mean
so
to rush
here,
you, man.
I think here, I think I'll go with one of the more explosive athletes and one of the more, and I guess disappointingly so, like undersized wings. So I got to go with Zaire Smith here. And I'm a bit remiss that I didn't get a guard, but because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was on my radar for this selection, he wasn't available for that selection. I didn't prefer to reach too far down and pick someone else that I might not have had as much confidence in.
I really like Porter and Zaire together. I think Porter's passing and Zaire Smith's cutting could result in some crazy alley-oops.
Clippers went full analytics with these picks.
All right. I like those picks, honestly. I think that you made a good fit there. That's why I kind of wanted to see where you went with the second one before I judged. Jonte and Zaire are a good fit, in my opinion.
I just think, both of those players have that skill set that is conducive to, getting those, really nice net ratings, in the future, and being conducive to playing with other guys and essentially just, not breaking the offense without having the passing skill set or the three-point skill set. That's what kind of why I didn't want to pick Colin. But,
that makes sense. Sexton, I think, is harder to fit talent, and when you're kind of building your base as opposed to just plugging in the last piece you need, it's harder to build it with Sexton as one of your base pieces because he restricts what you can do after that to an extent.
He's like Russell Westbrook, but without being as good at certain things. He just is extremely erratic and makes bad decisions. And I just have very little faith that he'll just be at any point a consistent good decision maker. And he also is not a good shooter. So he's a lot of the bad things about Russell Westbrook, minus the ridiculous athleticism and the other good stuff about Russell Westbrook. Yeah,
the tenacity that he has. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Well,
Russell Westbrook would be his super, super optimistic 100th percentile outcome. And even then, I think it'd be 110th because his athleticism just isn't at the point that Russell's is.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't like that comp. I just think they're in similar ways. They have that super that like aggressive attitude that some people just really fawn over, but it kind of just leads to them just being really erratic players that don't really help your bottom line that much.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. That's why I'm not considering him with my next pick for the Nuggets.
Oof, please don't do that to my guy.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Please.
See, this is a tough pick here because, like, the next two players – actually, no, it's not a tough pick. I just saw someone on my board I thought was already gone. I am going to go Jacob Evans from Cincinnati. I think he's a really good defender. He can come in and just give them more of what they need. He's a secondary ball handler, in my opinion. Not a primary initiator, but he can do enough to where, you put him in some dribble handoffs with Jokic, you can get some interesting stuff happening. And he just seems like a bulldog to me. He seems like he wants to win out there.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid pick. That's pretty much the exact mold you'd want in a wing to put around Jokic and handle the ball a little bit, just make smart decisions and can defend. I mean, yeah. That's about it.
Next up, we have Jacob Goldstein at 15 with the Wizards.
Well, the Wizards kind of need everything. They're in a tough position where they don't really have a way of improving outside of the draft or really trades. They have players locked in at 3 major positions already, in Beal, Porter, and Wall. So here I'm going to go with who I think is one of the best remaining big men in the draft, and I'm going to go with Robert Williams. I know Williams kind of underwhelmed a little this year in college, but I think he's still a really good finisher. He's a good enough defender, I think, to the point where he can come in and probably take over their starting center position in a few years. He's going to be a good role man for Wall and Beal. And it's not a super inspiring pick, I think, but I just don't really see where else they can go with it. I don't think there's any power forwards or centers who really fit them any better. And unless maybe they trade the pick, but I don't really see a way where they can draft another guard or wing who really fits them very well.
I understand that pick. I think he's got a little bit of Capella stock, like high potential there. If he's
shorter Capella.
Yeah, he's an inch or two shorter, but that may help his lateral quickness even.
Yeah,
because he does have ridiculous reach. I thought you may have gone Mitchell Robinson there, honestly, because I think that was.
It's a little too early, I think, for Mitchell Robinson.
That's fair, totally fair. Yeah, I think those are the two names on board though that you'd really.
That's who I was picking between.
Yep.
We've seen more of Williams. I assume NBA teams will have a good chance of at least interviewing and getting some workouts in with Robinson, so they'll have more information than we do. But I just, based off what I know, I have more faith in Williams sort of reaching that starting center, but switchable enough on defense, and with the inclusion of some vertical gravity, that he can fit what they already have and still provide a role of value.
Yeah, I like that. I like that pick a lot because of how good Robert Williams was in transition. I think that will appease players like John Wall a bit, to have some guy who can finish well at the rim and jump high, and obviously use his really ridiculous, like this unnecessarily long reach. So that's why I think that's like a reasonable pick in their situation, which I could not stand to be in.
All right, Ricky is up with the second pick for the Suns at 16.
This is actually also a pretty easy pick for me. I'm going to go DeAnthony Melton here. I'm super high on DeAnthony Melton, and also extremely high on his potential fit with Luka. I think he's just like the intersection of IQ and athleticism is something that people talk about a lot with Zaire Smith, but I think you can also kind of put Melton in that class too. He's not quite the athlete that Zaire is. Zaire is just kind of in his own tier entirely in that area, but he's also a really good athlete. He makes really, really smart gambles getting into passing lanes and just disrupting offenses defensively. And he's not necessarily going to be like your lead initiator from the point guard spot. I don't think he's really like that kind of a passer at this point. But if you have like Devin Booker and Luka Doncic also like handling the ball a lot, obviously, that's probably not going to be as big of a deal for you. I also Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. He's got really great cutting instincts, which I think would serve him well. Obviously, the shooting projection is a little bit tough, but I think the mechanical changes he's made have been really nice. His shot was just so ugly last year, but he's clearly worked on it. Like he's shown a little bit shooting with momentum in different directions at certain points, which I like. So yeah, that's where I'm going to go there.
I'm so mad you took him. That's a good
Since so.
Melton does he does a little of everything, and you can just plug him right in, and he'll immediately be able to start making an impact whoever you ask, really.
Yeah, and it's not just the athleticism and IQ intersection, it's also the motor. Like he just tries hard all the time. Like he's crashing the offensive glass, like pretty much whatever. I just honestly I don't see a way that he completely fails as a player. I mean, I guess that's a possibility, of course, but I mean just with all those things going for him, I think he's a safe pick and also a really good fit there.
I'd say the only way he fails would be the shot, probably. I mean, he has worked obviously, but it's still a gamble.
That's definitely the concern, and he's not I guess 100% can't miss prospect. I guess that might have been a little hyperbole, but I definitely think, especially in this range, he has a very high floor.
Agreed.
I think you mitigated his turnover percentage by putting him around other more capable ball handlers, specifically Doncic. So that's why I like that pick.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much how he would succeed in the NBA.
All right, on to 17. Back to you, Ricky.
This one's a little bit tougher. I went a little bit farther down on my board for this, just a little bit. I think I'm going to go Kevin Huerter here. It might be a little bit high for him. I had Huerter at 24, but I just think that's probably the best. I mean, the Bucks are obviously looking for someone who can contribute something close to immediately, and I think Huerter's shooting is pretty much of all the players left, that is if you put all the players left and listed out all of their skills, Huerter shooting is one of the things that would be most immediately translatable to the NBA, I think, and the versatility with his shot I think is also really big there. There's a lot of different directions to potentially go there. I mean, they could probably use another person who can handle the ball and create offense a little bit. I thought about John and Musa there. But no, I think Huerter's just ability to space the floor around Giannis, I think that would be a pretty solid fit.
He's someone I need to watch more film on, but from what I've heard, I mean, I've seen a lot of people rave about him recently, so it's hard for me to doubt that pick. All right, Jacob at 18 for the Spurs. What do you got, Jacob?
At 18 for the Spurs, I'm going to go with a player that was just mentioned. I'm going to take Zanan Musa. He, to me, fits the Spurs both because he's an international player who they love drafting, but also he provides them with some scoring that they're going to need as Murray becomes the starting point guard who isn't really much of an individual scorer. They're going to need some more bench punch. If Manu comes back, then he can learn under Manu for a year, but if not, I think he's a guy who can immediately come off the bench and at least generate his own offense. He's a really solid international wing. He's relatively young for the class, so he has some decent upside. And I think he would just fit right in with the Spurs, and the Spurs would be able to maximize his gunning potential while finding ways to put him in favorable situations on defense, as the rest of the guys on the team, the rest of the young guys, are pretty competent on that end.
Yeah, defense is his my one reservation on him, but the Spurs are the team probably to fit a guy that has maybe some defensive flags going up, but can really put the ball in the hoop because he can do that. It seems like at a moment's notice.
Yeah, I ought to do my due diligence and pay more attention to him and watch some film on him as well.
All right, next up I have the Hawks at 19. So since I went with Trae Young with the first pick, they do still need their big man, and since they went to the casino for the Trae Young pick and took a gamble, they're going to take another one here and take Mitchell Robinson. Obviously, we haven't seen much of Mitchell Robinson, but he's got insane physical tools. In high school, he was pretty damn dominant to the point where it's hard to see how he doesn't just have some use unless the IQ is just much lower than I think it is. But I think at this point, like they take Robinson and they go home happy knowing that they have someone that can command vertical gravity and they have someone that can command gravity out to 30 feet, and they got both of them in the same 20 picks.
No, I think that's a good pick. I mean, I think a little bit higher on Mitchell Robertson. I mean, he's just like a tough evaluation, honestly. I mean, just the film we have on him is just not, it's not easy to work with. But I mean, you definitely like the athleticism is definitely like it's ridiculous. Like that jumps off the page. I mean, there's some upside of a jumper and a little bit of a handle there, but how much those things will actually translate to the NBA is just it's tough to say. But I definitely like the idea of the Hawks going for like kind of like a mystery man upside play there.
All right, over to Josiah at 20. The Timberwolves, who they got?
Well, Tom Thibodeau loves playing Derrick Rose and Jamal Crawford and other guards who are absolute C's on defense. So I'm going to try to help by bringing in Jalen Brunson, who is probably a more competent ball handler and decision maker than Derrick Rose.
Jones? Oh my goodness!
Like he already has done that himself. So given that it's not totally improbable that Thibodeau's already shunned Tyus Jones, I'm going to try to help him bring in a different point guard instead.
I mean, I see where you're going, getting anything to get Rose and Crawford out of the rotation I can be on board with, I guess. And with your next pick, Josiah, 21 Jazz, who are you taking?
So I'm going to pick Keita Bates-Diop because of the competent three-point shooting percentage, but also because of the elite defense they provides, especially in one-on-one situations. It's likely that he'd actually be a reasonable defender on any of the five, but not such that it would be like a scenario you would willingly throw him into, I guess. So if he has to be switched out, he could probably defend competently in that situation. Yeah, that's why I'll select him for the Jazz, knowing good and well that the Jazz have the defensive personnel and the defensive philosophy to maximize that.
I mean, I've mocked him there before, so I can't disagree with that. I've mocked him much higher than that too, so I have to say it's a good value. Jacob, 22 with the Bulls. Which direction are you going here?
All right, so my first pick for the Bulls, I went with Mo Bamba. And kind of in keeping with that defensive idea, I think I'm going to take Kyrie Thomas here at 22 for the Bulls. He's a little undersized for a shooting guard, but he has pretty impressive wingspan. And I think with Mo Bamba and Lauri Markkanen protecting the rim behind him, he can sort of focus on just his man in kind of that Avery Bradley defensive role. And then on the other hand, on the offensive side, I think he's going to end up being a good enough shooter to help space the floor a little. He's not much of a passer, but at the same time, he doesn't really turn the ball over all that much either. So I think he has the potential to be a really solid 3-and-D player. And I think if I can throw out Chris Dunn, Kyrie Thomas, whoever at small forward, along with Lauri Markkanen and Mo Bamba, that has the potential to be a really solid defensive unit while having good floor spacing for Chris Dunn handling the ball.
Yeah, maybe you put Levine at the 3 there as an undersized 3, just hoping that not many NBA teams are really looking to attack undersized threes as part
hopefully they don't overpay Levine, though.
Yeah, that's true, especially coming off that injury. He didn't really show too much to make you think, oh, you got to pay this dude.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so with my next pick, 23, the Pacers, I'm going to pick kind of an under-the-radar guy, I think, Amari Spellman. He had a great year at Villanova, shot the ball, just lights out, has a good enough wingspan that I think you could reason yourself into him getting some small ball 5 minutes, especially with, he's got a little bit of girth. He did lose a lot of weight in his redshirt year, so it's very possible that he could be looking to drop some more weight as well as he goes forward. I think that he has kind of I'm not going to say Markieff Morris because I think he's a better shooter than that, but I think defensively that's where I kind of see his upside. And then offensively, I mean, this is kind of weird to say, but I've never done this before, but Marcus Morris maybe, because I think he has a better jump shot, again, than Markieff. But and yeah, I didn't come into this expecting to compare him to twins, but here we are.
I'm not the biggest Spellman guy, but I think based off how you're projecting him going forward, if he's able to provide the kind of value that you see in him, then it's a reasonable pick. I probably would have gone a different direction, but
yeah, I probably would have gone for like maybe another ball handler or like a ball handling wing or something. That would fit alongside Oladipo. I mean, because I don't know if Darren Collison is necessarily your long-term answer at point guard. I probably maybe would have looked at, I mean, Josh Okogie obviously isn't a point guard, but he's definitely a good two-way wing that can space the floor and defend really well. I probably would have looked at him there, and I don't know. Yeah.
Another name I was battling was Shake Milton. That's another name I had going around in my head there.
Yeah, Shake Milton's a good one. I mean, he'll shoot for sure. I don't know if I buy the handle all that much. That would be my issue there.
That's fair. Yeah, I saw Spellman as kind of like if he hits that 80th percentile or so outcome, he can be a Thaddeus Young replacement or so with slightly more shooting. Let's go on.
That's a good comp. That Young's good. I like that.
Yeah, this kind of where I was thinking with that pick. Maybe I should have gone there instead of the Morris twins comp. All right, let's go on to your next pick, Ricky, at 24. Who you got?
Yeah, no, that's kind of a tough pick for the Blazers there. I mean, you just kind of need like a two-way wing, like almost every other team in this draft. I mean, Lonnie Walker's still available. He's definitely a flawed prospect, and he's not the best guy I have left on the board, but I definitely think the athletic upside is intriguing there. I'm not a huge fan of his handle, but I mean, that does give him a little bit of upside if as nothing else than like a secondary creator. He's definitely a really good on-ball defender. Other than that, got some question marks, but I mean, he's I think pretty bankable as a shooter. So I'm just gonna go with Lonnie there. I don't feel amazing about it, but I think 24 is pretty reasonable for him.
I mean, you can play him off the bench and then bring him in next to Lillard or McCollum. He didn't have primary playmaking responsibilities in either situation, and if he does hit some upside that we don't really see at this point, that gives you the freedom to trade away one of Lillard or McCollum that you think is the worst fit.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like I said, I don't feel amazing about that pick, but I mean, he's a good prospect in that range.
Who you got with the Lakers? For
the Lakers, I think I'm gonna go with Eli Okobo here because he's the second best player left on my board. I like the idea of them getting like a another point guard who can like shoot off the bounce really well. I definitely like Okobo as like a versatile shot maker type. I mean, I like his size as a guy who can maybe play some two guard and play off the ball a little bit. That's definitely part of his projection, though. It depends how much whether this is a good fit in your mind probably depends on how much you believe in his ability to play on and off the ball. I believe in it. I think he's got the frame and the wingspan to defend up a tiny little bit. It's definitely a flawed defensive prospect, but when he's locked in, he looks really, really good on and off the ball. So I'm going to roll with that there. And, yeah, like I said, I just like the idea of them getting a guy who can make shots and space the floor when he's off the ball.
Yeah, that fit next to Lonzo. I liked it a lot.
But
yes.
He does seem to be an interesting fit there. I hadn't thought about that before, but I like
him. I have similar reservations about his defense. Like he wasn't the best defender in the French Pro A this year, but I think the offensive talent is there, and he's shown flashes on defense that he's probably coachable on that end to get him to at least like not be a glaring deficiency.
Yeah, it's really weird because like at times like he clearly shows that he like knows what to do. Like he knows how to be a good defensive player. Other times he just like looks completely disengaged and that he doesn't care at all. It's just very he's kind of hard to project defensively, but I imagine that when he gets to the NBA, it'll probably be more of that, just not really knowing what you're going to get out of him on a given night. So yeah, like I said, I don't feel great about his defensive projection, but he's definitely not a lost cause there.
I kind of have a question about his fouls per 40. Is that part of his the red flags that you guys have about his defensive ability?
That's actually not something that I've looked at too much, but that is interesting. He's definitely like really handsy, so I wonder if that plays a role there, and just like
I think he just gambles a lot, like
yeah.
both with the ball and on defense. He just sort of he just gambles a lot, and I think it's something you can probably coach out of him, but it's definitely a bit of a red flag.
All right, next up, Jacob back with the 76ers at 26.
All right, so at the 10th pick when I had the 76ers, I had him take Shai, and I'm going to stay in a similar vein with this pick, and I'm going to take Shake Milton here. I think I agree with what you guys were saying earlier, that I have some questions about his handle and if he really has, some playmaking value. But honestly, he's one of the better shooters in this draft. At this point, I'm just looking for individual skills that I know will translate. And I know he can come in, especially if JJ Redick is back, he can learn under him. And I think Shake can really figure out how to help this team just by spacing the floor around Ben Simmons and being able to hit value shots. And it's a valuable skill. And I think it's ultimately what's going to get him drafted.
Highest player left on my big board, so I think good value there. Also, I think his height lends itself just to the defensive style. I think they want to play, not switching everything.
He's long. He is like a almost 7'1" wingspan, which for a guard is really good. So I don't think he's a standout defender or anything, but at the very least, he's not going to get you killed on that end if he figures out how to use his length.
Plenty of things to like there. I don't think it's that risky of a pick.
No, and with the 76ers trying to make the playoffs and actively being a competing team, I don't think they're going to go for any swing for the fences picks. I think they're going to play it a little safer and get guys who have a skill that will help their team. And I think his shooting off the bench will immediately be able to help the team next year.
So with my next pick, 27, Celtics, I'm going to go ahead and go with Melvin Frazier out of Tulane. He's just a defensive bulldog. He gets into everything. He really fits the Celtics style, and I think Brad Stevens can do wonders with him. He's not the greatest shooter, but they have another dude that's actually a restricted free agent this offseason who's also not the greatest shooter, who is also a defensive bulldog in Marcus Smart. Frazier doesn't have the body that Smart has to where he can just go out and guard power forwards with ease, but he has a lot of fight in him, and I think guarding a couple positions is possible, if not 3. I think 4 is probably asking too much of him unless he puts on some unexpected weight that would be very surprising given his current development. But I think that he has enough high upside that the Celtics would look at him and think, hey, keeping Marcus Smart is going to be really expensive after the postseason he just had, and him making comments about wanting 17 or million or whatever it is, and this is a good contingency plan.
I think that's a solid pick. I mean, I'm not like the biggest Melvin Frazier fan in the entire world, but I mean, you pretty much know what you're going to get with him. Obviously, having another wing never hurts. It's a good pick to me.
All right. Next up, we have Josiah with the Warriors at 28. Who are the probable champions picking?
Yeah, it's not as if they need a whole at this stage. More so just need to retain the talent that they already have. But the person I'm picking, obviously, Landry Shamet actually here. Though he is old, he's a high IQ player, one who is touted a really low turnover rate, especially lately. He was proficient off screens, cuts, spot ups, and the sound defender. And he's also light skinned, as is the majority of the best guards, I guess, on Golden State. So I really like him here, mostly because he was a guy I was actually like able to follow for a while, even when he'd gotten hurt a few years back. And I think he actually has a few medical concerns as far as like whether his foot is like a recurrent issue or not. But as far as like basketball ability and basketball knowledge and IQ, he's a sound player.
That would be a wonderful fit for Shamet and the Warriors, I think.
Agreed. The dude can shoot, which the Warriors don't have enough shooting. So
yeah, they're really lacking on shooting.
Yeah.
And for the Nets, who you got at 29?
So the Nets could use a lot, yeah. But I do have some faith in Jared Allen's progression. So I went with more of a wing / center. I went with Isaac Bonga here. Is late in the draft, but considering his potential switchability on defense, but his lack of like rim protection, I guess that would be one of the red flags upon making this decision. But this late in the draft, I think he feels somewhat of a need, and he can be matured in Atkinson's system.
I like the 6'9" forward in Atkinson's system, honestly. That's really interesting. And I think he could do a lot with Bonga.
I really like that pick. Bonga is the kind of guy that theoretically can kind of guard point guards to small forwards and maybe a little power forward if he puts on strength. And he's shown good switchability in both the German second division league that he plays in and when he's played in the various youth competitions. So I think that's a really solid pick. A good upside guy who can switch around a lot, really add some defensive intensity.
Yeah, I think adding strength is going to be the big thing for him because getting to where he wants on the court isn't so much of a problem, but once he gets like in the paint, he's knocked off his base too easily. But yeah, Atkinson could do amazing things with him. I'm really high on Atkinson, so honestly, I might have liked anyone you put on his roster. All right, and for the last pick in the first round, which is the only round we're doing today, sadly, I have the Hawks, and I don't know how he fell this far, and I'm not even sure if I'm saying his last name correctly, but Josh Okogie. He's got a monstrous wingspan. He likes playing defense, it seems like. He's a little bit loose with the ball for me. I think he makes some risky plays that I'm not a huge fan of, but at this point in the draft, it's just value that you can't pass, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's definitely a really – I mean, I considered him at almost every spot I had, like after I picked Anthony Melton. I have him in like just outside the lottery. So, yeah, no, I like that pick a lot, and I'm also surprised he lasted to 30.
Yeah, I was considering him at the Celtics, but I thought Melvin Frazier's additional height might be a little more preferential for them.
Yeah. How tall is Okogie? Like 6'3", 6'4", or something?
6'4.5".
6'4.5.
Yeah, a little less than ideal.
But he has a 7-foot wingspan, which helps.
Yeah, he's got the wingspan. He's got a really solid frame. He's over 200 pounds. So if anyone who is his height is going to effectively guard up to larger forwards, I think it would be someone who fits his profile. So, and he's also, I feel pretty safe about projecting his shot. So definitely, I think that's a good pick.
He seems like he'll end up a pretty solid 3-and-D wing, maybe can get some point guard defense in there. But yeah, it's a solid pick. With this late in the first round, about to be the start of the second round, you're just looking for guys who can do something on the court. I think Okogie at least can play defense and probably is a decent shooter as well.
Yeah, I think with the shakeup to the Hawks coaching staff and the influx of talent just in this draft alone, with them getting Trey and Mitchell in this scenario and whoever they actually get in real life, at this point you just got to pick a dude that can fit whatever they're going to do, because I don't even know if they know what system they're going to be running at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how we didn't pick Kevin Knox or Colin Sexton in the first round?
Oh my lord! Man.
I didn't realize.
What the heck?
I think that's really funny.
I was like
watching. I was watching Sexton for. for so long. I was like, are any of us going to do it? Is anyone going to acknowledge the elephant in the room here?
I
And
considered
he fell
it.
into the second round, which is so funny to me.
I
He
didn't
just
as
doesn't-
well, but I wouldn't have picked him for any of my teams anyways.
Yeah,
me
I don't really
neither.
feel like any of my teams needed a point guard.
But I guess
Yeah.
I'd say Pacers for me, but I wouldn't want to take the ball out of Oladipo's hands and put it in Sexton's,
No.
honestly.
Exactly. It's tough because he's not like a good fit alongside a team that like already has like a ball dominant star or anything, but he also doesn't really bring that upside as like a super high level playmaker or like a shooter, whatever that you would want for like a totally rebuilding team. So it just, I mean, we went through 30 picks and it was just not really, he was never like the ideal decision for any of them. And I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if in reality he ends up dropping to the late first round exactly for those reasons. He needs the ball, but he maybe doesn't do enough to really deserve the ball at this point.
He's like, he pretty much fits the mold of like probably his best role is going to be as like a second unit guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't see him really being like a valuable part of like a really good starting unit. So maybe he could be a lead guard on a bad team or like an 8 seed or something at some point, ideally, but that's just not really something that interests me that much. That said, though, I honestly, it also would not shock me if some team just is in love with him and takes him like in the top 10 or like around Trae Young range. That also wouldn't surprise me all that much.
Me either. I mean, because he got the reputation as a really good defensive player.
He was going into the season like he was like consensus top 5 guy. I mean,
yeah, and he just didn't show it in college.
I think the Clippers are a possible landing spot for him. I could really see them talking themselves into him at one of their 12 or 13.
One or two, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that at that point there's too many other guys who are better.
Definitely.
So, I mean, if a team really thinks they can get some good defense out of him, I guess I can see it. But
I mean, there's a lot of really interesting wings in this draft, and wings are just so insanely valuable. It's just I mean, there's still like a bunch of players that we didn't pick that I probably would take over him, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, we just saw the conference finals. Like Sexton, I'm not sure would be playable in that conference finals. I don't know if Trae Young would be either, but Trae Young gives you the potential for a massive
the upside to be
yeah. I guess he would be limited a good bit, especially by the Rockets, given how they switch all those anyway and force you to beat people with isolations and take shots of like less expected value.
I think Trae Young actually could beat people in isolation pretty often,
I
honestly.
hope.
He has the burst to,
He needs to.
He did have a really good foul rate, like free throw rate, like strikingly good free throw rate in college.
Yeah, and he also, if I recall correctly, is a pretty good ratio of stocks to fouls, which is maybe like just him not putting forth that much effort on defense, but that's also pretty encouraging as far as, you know, what I've looked at for him defensively. I mean, the projection for him there is pretty bad. I mean, it's like
really bad.
The outcome he would have to hit to have like aggregate all-star production, the offensive outcome he would have to hit to have aggregate like all-star production is just insanely high. So he's pretty boom or bust for me. But I mean, if he does hit that outcome, like, I mean, he's gonna be really good.
Exactly.
He has a really advanced skill set for any guard at this stage, at his age. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and as far as Knox not going in the first round, I mean, I have him in the 30s on my big board anyway, so I wasn't going to be picking him probably.
I have him in the 40s.
There you go.
I have him at 28, but yeah, I don't really I'm not like that shocked that he ended up falling through, especially. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I don't really see the allure of him.
Me either.
Yeah, yeah, he's like especially defensively, I just don't really see it. He's pretty much the kind of guy that like ideally can defend his position competently, and then I mean maybe if he fills out like he'll be able to defend like bigger players more, and then offensively pretty much. I mean, a lot depends on his ability to just make shots, and I mean he has good mechanics and that sort of stuff. But I mean, he's pretty much just going to be coming off of pin downs to shoot over guys, and if that's like your high end outcome. I mean, it's just not really that interesting to me. I mean, I don't know. It's yeah.
Yeah, I pulled him up on a Tankathon because they do that like strengths and weakness, maybe little box thing, and they have him with literally nothing in the strengths column, which is like
that's hilarious.
He can maybe he can shoot
question mark
kind of, and like that's kind of like he's not good at anything else.
He
really.
can create his own shots.
Maybe, yeah. It's a lot of question marks that I think a team might talk themselves into.
Yeah.
But it's a tough sell for me.
Yeah. I feel pretty okay having passed up on him at all those picks.
Yeah. I thought we had an excellent mock draft today. Maybe some players that didn't get picked that should have. Maybe some players that did get picked that shouldn't have. Me, Spellman, I don't know. Maybe I'm irrationally biased towards him. Who knows?
Did anyone think about Anthony Simmons?
No. I've actually got a lot of comments on the mock draft I put out on 94 Feet Report saying, how could you forget Anthony Simons on?
Oh, is it Simons?
Yeah, I think it's Simons. I don't know. I haven't really studied him enough to know, but what I have seen of him, like Mike Gribanoff did a really good article on him, and I just wasn't all that impressed by what I saw in the article.
Where did you go to school? Like, I'm trying to find information about
it. Go to college.
Oh, okay.
Mitchell Robin. I mean, it's like essentially a fifth year in high school, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Jeez. He's not young.
He is young. He's really young, which is why a team probably drafts him.
Okay. He's older than he's older than Jonte. He's older than Jaren Jackson. He's not as young as people think.
What?
That's what I thought. He's not young. Like he should be a high school senior. He's young.
He's young for the class still, though.
Yeah. He's young for. If he was a freshman, he'd be young right now. As if he was actually like a high school senior, as I think a lot of people view him as. They're like, oh, he was playing against high school players last year. He must be their age. And it's like he wasn't really their age.
He's a year older, which is a lot of the older players in college dominate college because they're 3 years older than everyone else.
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't have any regrets not picking Simons in the first round
either. I just wanted to hear any rationale on that. Because everyone, I mean, on all the mock drafts, he's so high up.
They love him.
I don't understand it. I honestly just don't get it. Like he's like a small two guard who's like pretty. He's athletic. I mean, I guess I can see some appeal there, just as like a guy that can shoot off the bounce. I mean, but it's like, like some people have him in like the lottery or around the lottery, and I'm just like, what are you seeing that? Has you thinking these things?
What about Aaron Holiday? Because I see him in the lottery, and I'm like, what?
That's insane to me.
It's his genealogy. It has to just be the genealogy.
What are his tools?
He's got like a nice wingspan for his height.
He's wingspan. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, what is he, like 6'1" or 6'2"?
Yep.
Like that.
I believe it's
6'6". Oh wow.
So he's got like
he's just under 6'1".
Yeah. So
he can shoot.
He can shoot, but like he's also like defensively, I really like some people are a lot higher on him defensively than I am. I just like combine the height, like his wingspan is like fine, but like combine the height with like he has like a concerning lack of quickness defending like other guards. I just like I like he gets blown by too much for me to just like consider him in even like the top 25, let alone the lottery. I don't really see it. And he's also not like some like really high level playmaker. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to he has two brothers who are one's a solid NBA player, one's a really good NBA player, and he went to UCLA, which is a place that puts out NBA players, so he must be an NBA player.
Pipeline, yeah. Yeah, it's like it's not as if to say we're like all hoping that these players are terrible.
Yeah.
It's like it's just right, like the reasonable like outcomes given their bodies of work aren't really conducive to like success on the NBA level.
I would love if we got 60 rotation players from this draft, because guess what? That would mean 60 good players in the league, and good players in the league is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I think we did a good mock here. We talked about some prospects after. I'm going to let each of y'all give your Twitter handle and maybe some work if you're working on any articles. Plug that so you can get all the extra views because I have thousands and thousands of people listening to this. So, you got to capitalize on the audience when it's there. Jacob, go ahead and plug your Twitter handle and any work.
All right, my Twitter handle is at Jacob E. Goldstein, all one word. Not really working anything right now, but I did recently put out a big database of international league box plus minus for this past season. So if you have a chance, take a look at that. You'll be able to see a lot of these international prospects we talked about, and there's a good number of former NBA players who are dominating overseas leagues.
And Josiah, how about you?
At steady losing. Once again, steady losing. I have my liners in, so I don't know if I'm enunciating that well. But at steady losing, I'm writing a preview for this NBA Finals. One of the most highly anticipated NBA Finals of all time.
Unpredictable.
And also probably a quick feast on the Rockets, of course, and how their strategy is garbage. but I guess just a year in a review and maybe something to keep in perspective, like how championships aren't the most probable things, and how like your success or your the value that you presented as a team isn't always defined by whether or not you win, because of course you may run up against a buzzsaw or you might have an unfortunate injury.
Sadly true. Yeah, I'm going to be feeling this one all summer, maybe into next season even. All right, Ricky, how about your handle and any work?
My handle is at Scricca1. So that's SCRICCA1. I'm not currently working on anything, but I just had my first post go up for Nylon Calculus, which is basically looking at the assist distributions for Trae Young relative to other prospects and relative to where the rest of their team's assists were located and other factors like that. That just went up today. In the next couple of days, I'm going to have the scouting report on DeAnthony Melton over at Orlando Magic Daily, and then after that, Elia Kobo. Those are already written, so it's just a matter of I think they're scheduled, so they'll just be up like sometime this week. I don't really know. But if you follow me, then you'll see them when they go up. They're a little shorter than the ones I did for like the top guys, which got over well over 3,000 words for some of them. So these are a little briefer than that. So hopefully not quite as arduous to read, hopefully. But just keep an eye out for those.
Oh, you did well too, by the way, on the Trae one. I like that.
Oh, yeah. That was a good job.
Thanks.
Everyone go read it.
Definitely. Everyone needs to read that because Ricky puts out some great work always. And my Twitter handle is at hoopsmetrox, HOOPSMETROX. And I recently had my first Nylon Calculus article as well. I looked at the 4 factors going into Game 7 of the Rockets-Warriors. It didn't turn out how I wanted the game, but the article still has some value, and there's a nice little correlation chart where you can look up your favorite team and see kind of which of the factors really made them tick. So I hope everyone had –
Before we go, can we get everyone's finals picks in?
Okay, I got the Warriors.
Yeah.
Bold.
I'll give the Cavs one game.
I want to go Warriors in 4 because that's probably an accurate depiction of the quality of those teams. That would be the most accurate outcome. But I just I have a feeling that at some point, I don't know, the Warriors are gonna do something not good, or Steve Kerr's going to make some dumb rotational decisions, and LeBron's going to have a ridiculous game, and the Cavs are going to take one. But if that does happen, it will probably be the Warriors' fault. But my pick is going to be Warriors in 4.
Anyone else got anything other than Warriors in 4 or 5? We got a Cavs.
Rockets in 7.
Rockets in 7, baby. All right, Rockets in
It's
7
crazy.
is a
I would,
great way
yeah.
to end this. So
Yeah.
everyone have an excellent day, and remember, Rockets in 7.